Now, when you get to the pitch, they're already pre-programmed to kind of do things that you're asking. So go ahead and grab out that pen of yours. Okay, I got my pen. Okay, write down your name, your phone number, your email address. Now go ahead and tick that box that says, I want more information. Great. Now reach into your back pocket, grab out your credit card, and take those 16 numbers, and then just not quite like that.
Right.
But you get the idea that it just becomes this thing where it's Simon Says, right? I say this, you do this. It's pretty easy to program an audience if you do it from the very beginning and do it in a non-annoying way.
How are entrepreneurs like us daring bravely to build a stage, ditch the sweatpants, and step up to the mic? How do we create our own transformative events so we can get our message out into the world in a bigger way that's not only profitable, but it's actually something we can be proud of? That's the question. And the answers are inside this podcast. My name is Sarah Pfeiffer. Welcome to Green Room Central. Today I brought into Green Room Central Studios Tom Jackobs, also known as the Impact Pilot. He helps business owners drive more sales from stage by helping them find their impact story, because everyone loves a good story, and an impactful one can move the listener to take action and buy. Tom, welcome to Green Room Central Studios. I'm so thrilled to have you here. Say hello to Lynchpin Nation.
Hey everybody, glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Sarah.
Tom, tell me what your superpower is as it relates to events.
Yeah, so I realized, I don't know how many years ago, when I first started doing events and started really doing events and selling from events, that my superpower is selling without feeling like it's selling at an event. So, how to kind of move from the presentation and where you're giving all the great information into the sales pitch. It used to completely get me off my game, but once I learned the process and practiced quite a bit, being able to easily move into the pitch area, so it doesn't even feel like a pitch to myself, and it certainly doesn't feel like that for the audience as well. So I'd say that's my little superpower.
So tell me more a little bit about that, because I think that is the place where everyone can notice almost a physical change in people when they shift from this is content time to this is the sale time. And so
Yep.
Explain a little bit more about the nuances of what's happening there.
What happens to most people is exactly what you described. Okay, I go from content, now I'm going into sales. And when you approach it that way, then the salesperson or the speaker is approaching it that way, and the way that you feel is oftentimes is portrayed onto the audience as well. So they feel the same thing and feel that emotion, because a lot of times we'll get a little tense, like this is the important part. And a really funny story, I was in London and I love going to different events just to see how the speakers do things. And a friend and I went to go see The Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort, do his 3-hour talk on power of persuasion, I think was what he was selling. And it was basically a 3-hour sales pitch. And he did pretty well up until the pitch time. And I don't think maybe he'd never been in England before, and the audience is a little bit different than the US in terms of how you're able to pitch. But people started to get up and leave in droves, like as he was starting to pitch. He was like, wait, the best is yet to come. Like, why is everybody leaving? And I was like, that was just a really bad crash and burn. I think he still made some money off of it, but it was awkward to see, just that from a really good professional, right? To see just that shift. And you could tell he was flustered when he went into the pitch, and the audience felt that, and they just took off because they knew what was coming. They're like, I'm not interested.
And that's so true that the audience feels what you're feeling. Like they rise or fall to the level of energy that you're bringing to the room. And if you're bringing this frenetic stress. Oh my gosh, I'm so nervous to do what I'm going to do next. Energy, it impacts the sale.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so rather, what I like to do now is make the pitch a continuation of the content. So a little bridge that I do now is, I always ask for permission, right? So I always say, hey, would it be okay if I go a little bit deeper into how you can start to implement these ideas that I just shared with you at a deeper level? And so people are thinking, well, yeah, of course, show me how I'm going to do that. And so then that enables me to go nicely into the pitch, but I treat the pitch like another learning section of the presentation or more content where I'm teaching them what they're going to get while they're going through my program. And then I just, do the stacks sometimes or just talk about what the program is and what their next step should be. Give me your email address, sign up for the program, see me in the back of the room, scan this QR code, whatever the call to action is. But then it becomes just a part of the content itself rather than the pitch.
Okay. I absolutely love everything you just said. I'm a recapper. So I'm hearing that first you're asking them for permission. And that permission almost is giving you some peace of mind that they actually want what I'm going to do next. So that they're asking me to keep going. And so perhaps that helps alleviate a little bit of the nerves. Is that right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then
absolutely.
I'm also hearing then that you're treating that whole pitch segment as teaching. And that's a mindset shift. And it feels epic to me. Kind of like I was watching this video this week. Mel Robbins was interviewing, I wish I knew her name.
Her.
Yes, she was interviewing someone and they were talking about laundry and how laundry is a cycle. It's not anything that's ever done. So because there's clothes that we're wearing that are dirty and there's clothes...
So true.
There's
3 times a week.
There's clothes that are in the hamper. There's clothes that are in the laundry. There's it's impossible for it to be done, and so we can't think of that as our goal because it's a cycle that we're moving at a pace that works for us, and that felt like a monumental shift for her to say that, her guest to say that. And I feel like what you just said is the same. It's like this complete mindset shift that the whole time we're teaching. This part where we're making the offer, we just happen to be teaching about what they're going to get and what's going to be required of them and what the outcomes are going to be when they do the thing and what to do next, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. You're teaching them how to buy from you is another way of thinking about it.
Teaching them how to buy from you and teaching them how to consume and take action on the thing that you're selling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's
it's a mindset
an epic
shift.
mindset shift that might help take all the butterflies that are in everyone's stomach and just go put them to the side.
Yeah, because at that point, if those butterflies are intense, because you're under enough stress when you're in front of an audience, as it is. And then to add this other stress of, oh my gosh, now I have to pitch and I have to make this worthwhile. There's just so much pressure to make a sale. Mm-hmm. And then crickets. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right? It's not going to, because you're too tense. That intensifies the audience. Mm-hmm. Then they're like, why is he holding back? Like, what's going on up there? Oh, this is an awkward moment. He's probably trying to sell me something.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I've been in, I think I'm blessed because the first room I was ever in where there was a pitch was one of Brendan Burchard's rooms. And he happens, I think we both are a fan of him as a mentor. And it is magical. And it doesn't feel awkward. It feels so natural. He's one of the best in the business. And it feels like, I'm always surprised, like, oh, we were being sold an hour ago it started.
It started at the first email you received. I mean.
Yeah, exactly. And I always tell people that if you haven't seen it done well, it is almost impossible for you to picture yourself. I'm a big visualizer. Yourself doing a pitch that is seamless and feels effortless and is hugely valuable to your guests.
Yeah. Brendan is one of the best, and his friends as well. So like the Bo Easons, the Roger Loves of the world. Even like Tony Robbins, I love going to UPWs just to watch the pitch. And, UPW, Unleash the Power Within, is what, a 3-day or a 4-day event, and he's like doing 2 days of it. And it's a 4-day pitch fest. I mean, that leads up to buying the next thing.
Yeah.
And it's so elegant the way that he does it, the way that Brendan does it, that, these really top level sellers do it. And, by observing and modeling, now we can get better ourselves and see what they're doing and get better by watching.
Yeah. I just finished my first read. I will definitely read it again. $100 Million Leads by Alex Hormozi.
Oh, good.
And it's phenomenal. And he calls out in there how important it is to watch and listen to commercials and to pitches and to the marketing because and he almost treats it like a fun game to identify what pieces are where and what they're using as like whatever each of the pieces of a strong offer and where they're happening in the marketing. And so you're saying that you do that by when you go to events and you're a consumer of the pitches so that you can break down and understand what are they doing that's working and how can I model that and how can I teach that.
I mean, absolutely. I even went to Lakewood Church, which is a mega church in Houston, with Joel Osteen.
Oh, yeah, I was like, I feel like pastor. I've heard the name of the church, but I couldn't figure it out. And then you said Joel. Yeah, I'm familiar with Joel.
Yeah, and he's a great speaker, regardless of religious or affiliations and things like that. But great speaker, and it's all built up for donations. And whether you like that or not, it's irrelevant. But the fact of the choreography of an event, it was, and again, that event, the church event, was just brilliantly done from the moment that you walk into the congregation. It's programmed, like everything. The smoke is there, the music starts low, it gradually increases, it's high energy, and he comes out, he's like, and then readings and everything. It's so elegant in leading up to the ask for donations. And I was like, and those buckets were full when they went around too. It was amazing to watch.
I've been following Sarah Jakes Roberts online, and I think that's her name. She just took over as pastor of her father's church, and it's mega. Like her event coming up, Women Evolve, I think it's called, is going to be in a sports stadium. There's going to be so many people there, and you just put an idea in my head. It's so important that we get out and see stuff and see how it's being modeled, or see how it's done well, so that we can go model it ourselves, and to not feel constrained by our niche or industry it's kind of like you think that there's only offers happening in this kind of space where people are selling digital products or masterminds or retreats or whatever, but it's actually happening in all over. Yeah. So smart. So talk to us a little bit about specific tactics that you teach that help people, like let's take a show of hands who's ready to go learn more about how they could implement this in their life, like the asking permission piece. What are other things that you teach that have really moved the needle for your students?
Yeah, well, number one is personal story. So how to craft your own personal story in a way that doesn't sound like it's just for you, but you are involving the audience in that personal story. So everybody immediately says, well, but I don't have any near-death experiences or rags to riches stories to share. I was like, well, don't think about the tragedies in your life, then think about some of the comedies as well, and have a good combination of comedies and tragedies that move the audience to understand why you're passionate about what you're talking about today. And for coaches and for course creators and creatives, that is, I think, even more important, because now they understand kind of your passion behind why you created this course or why you're coaching people in a certain way. Yeah. So then they can go, yes, you're part of my tribe. This is what I want. I believe in you, and I believe in your product as well. So, they're able to kind of go on that journey with you and see themselves in your story when you do the story properly. And I always like to kind of weave that story in and out of the presentation. So, you do story time, then you do teaching moments, and then story, then teaching, story, teaching, and then pitch. And then, and just, kind of just weaves people around in a nice kind of, I call it a roller coaster ride of emotions, to take them to where you want to take them at the end.
Yeah, so good. I definitely feel that when I'm in an audience, and it's like you said, like a Roger or a Bo or a Brendan, where they are taking us on a journey. And I think, back to what I said earlier, it's so important that we know as the event host that we're in charge of the room. It's our job to manage the energy in the room. And so you're saying that using story is one way to kind of either get them excited or get them serious about a specific point. So I love to keep a notepad open on my phone that is a list of stories that I could potentially tell someday. What do you tell people on? I guess the first step would be just collecting them, recognizing that you are full of stories.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. The first step is always taking an inventory of moments in life. And I don't quite tell them, say story at that point, but moments in your life where you've learned something about yourself, about what's possible, about the world. And, you could go all the way back to, your first memories, like 4 years old, 5 years old, up until, yesterday, and collect all of these stories. And most of us, it's just human nature. We always tend to err on the side of tragedy, because those are what we typically remember. But don't forget the good stories as well, because that can be inspirational for people and motivational for people when told the proper way. And the tragedy kind of gets people on your side and get them rooting for you as you overcome the tragedy, right? And then the comedy can be the same thing. But the very first thing that you need to do is have that inventory of stories. And then the second, and this is probably the most important after having a list of stories, is finding out which story has the most emotional impact or charge to it. And what I mean by emotional charge is a technique that I take my students through is we go through each of the stories and I ask them to put themselves in that time, in that place, in that story. And I'm observing them, but I'm also asking them to observe their own physiology to see if there's a change in heart rate. I can see them shifting their seats a little bit, getting a little nervous, or laughing, or even a tear shed. But I'm looking for those emotional reactions to the stories. And then we go through and we list out the top 3 that have the most emotional charge to them. And 9 times out of 10, they're the 3 stories that they don't want to tell.
Oh, no.
But that they have to. But they have to tell those stories. And then we work through that, work through the nerves. And those become the best stories. I had one client, and she had just such a heartbreaking story where she was a police officer, but she went in to the academy at 39 years old, left an advertising career, a really lucrative advertising career, to go into policing. And she was 39 years old, never shot a gun before. And she was expected to have a certain proficiency, I hope, for police officers anyway, a certain proficiency in terms of shooting, and she just wasn't getting it. And she was having a test. But basically, we worked around her story of where she was actually thinking about using that gun on herself.
Wow.
And when I first heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, are you comfortable with this? And I was like, because if you are, this is going to be an amazing showstopper. And that was the impact moment. So I had her start her talk at that point. And we always come up with an impact moment or impact statement, a sentence that grabs the audience's attention from the very beginning so that they pay attention. So I never have somebody come out on stage and go, oh, thank you so much, Sarah, for introducing me. That was a very lovely introduction. I'm glad that I'm here. Oh, hi, Joe. I see you over there. And that's, it's like, yeah, stop the presentation at that point. Nobody's listening. So instead, she comes out on stage and she just looks at the audience, takes a breath, and says, I was sitting in my blue BMW that had seen better days with my service revolver sitting on my lap, thinking about ending it all that day. And she videotaped this for me so I could review, and I heard an audible gasp from the audience. Like, and I couldn't see the audience, but I could hear them. And I'm sure they were all like, put all their phones down. They were like on the edge of their chairs, leaning in, wanting to know the rest of the story. And it, like, that is how you grab an audience's attention. And again, it doesn't have to be a tragedy. It doesn't have to be a near-life a suicide attempt or anything like that. You can always grab people's attention in many different ways. And that's the way to start the presentation. And then and then you just take them on a roller coaster ride from there, because you have them in the palm of your hand at that point.
Wow. Oh, I love the permission you gave all of us not to be writing down fully fleshed out stories or even things that we think are stories. You said just write down, just start a log of moments of your life, and that feels like a weight is lifted off of my shoulders. That it seems like an easy way to get started in capturing moments in our life that could be worth retelling in an event situation as a way of managing the energy in the room and bringing people along on a journey through our whole presentation and up through the offer. That's so good. It's and the more you talk about how you helped her, it is telling me that this is really an area where we can benefit so much from a coach who knows exactly how to like help us then triage our moments into what are the ones worth diving a little deeper into, creating stories out of, fleshing out, and then how to put that into a talk. So good.
Yeah, thanks.
So if stories and bringing people on that emotional roller coaster, that journey, if you will, are a really nice tool to have in our tool bag, what else is maybe something even simpler that we can do, like raise your hand if you're interested, asking for permission to keep going? What's something else you teach your students?
Yeah, so like that's a really great example, the raise your hand. And whether you're doing a webinar or a live event, having your audience do things with you along the way, starting from the very beginning, is programming them to then take some type of action, right? So getting them to raise their hand. And I always, whenever I'm getting audience participation, I always raise my hand too, because we're all mirrors, right? Hey, does this resonate with anybody out there?
Yes.
Have you been in a situation like this too? Just let me know, right? And it's like Pavlov's dog, right?
Yes.
They start to drool when the bell rings. And so while you're doing that, now when you get to the pitch, they're already pre-programmed to kind of do things that you're asking. So go ahead and grab out that pen of yours. Okay, I got my pen. Okay, write down your name, your phone number, your email address. Now go ahead and tick that box that says, I want more information. Great. Now reach into your back pocket, grab out your credit card, and take those 16 numbers, and then just not quite like that.
Right.
But you get the idea that it just becomes this thing where it's Simon Says, right? I say this, you do this. It's pretty easy to program an audience if you do it from the very beginning and do it in a non-annoying way.
But I also think that it's twofold. Like you're also training yourself to do that, to make that ask of people many times. Like it's like one of those, it's a trial closes.
Trial close.
And but it's helping you too, because you've already a dozen times in the presentation, okay, raise your hand if, and now we're going to do it going into the pitch. Raise your hand if you feel like you want to know more about how you could, whatever, the asking the permission to go into the pitch. So good. Yeah.
And then I do want to share one other nugget that every speaker needs to pay attention to. So we can walk and we can talk, but we don't do those at the same time. So what I mean by that is, in your presentation, like you don't want to be a tennis match, right? It's just like pacing back and forth across the stage. That's like everybody's going to have to see a chiropractor after they're done. But rather, pick 3 areas on the stage that represent a teaching moment, and I always do center stage for teaching moments, upstage, center, and then another area for past, another area for future. So when you're talking about the past, go to one area. When you're talking about the future, go to another area. And when you're teaching, go to the middle. Teaching, pitching, go to the middle. And then you use the natural pauses that are in your presentation to do the walking. And so, and this does a couple things. One, it allows you to have the power of the pause and power of silence in your presentation. And it doesn't seem awkward because you're walking during the pause. And it could be, a half a second, 2 or 3 steps. But just that pause enables your audience to catch up and do the processing in their brain of what you've already gone through. And so the natural times to move are, when you're talking about a story, you're in story time. When you're teaching, you go to teaching section. And when you're, talking about the past, you go to the past part. So you have this triangle of where you're going. And you just kind of choreograph it, and it looks a lot better than just like randomly walking all over the stage. And
we've all been in
you've seen those.
We've all been in rooms where someone has paced and it has made us dizzy. Yeah.
Oh, we've all done it too, probably at some point.
Feels nerve-wracking. Yeah.
What would you say? That's a fabulous tip. I think everyone's got a visual now of now it's just about practicing.
Yeah.
What do you tell people who really have like a bodily reaction, not a good one, to, oh my gosh, now I'm pitching? And how do you help them overcome that?
Yeah, it's repetition. And that primarily, whether you're giving a just a regular talk, those nerves come from not knowing the outcome. So if you're confident in the outcome that you're going to give, so always the first time I do a talk that I haven't done before, I am practicing it word for word in the mirror, in video. I'm reviewing that probably 10 to 15 more times than I would a normal talk.
Okay.
Because I want to be so fluid with that there's nothing tripping me up.
Sure.
5 people leave the room. I'm no worries. I know exactly what I'm going to go on to next. Yeah. And especially working on that transition from your content to the pitching moment. So we work a lot on just repetition. So it just becomes second nature. And when it becomes second nature, unconscious competence,
yes.
then you're in the moment, you're enjoying it, your audience is enjoying it, you're having fun, and things are just like rolling.
Yeah.
And you're at ease. And when people see you at ease and you're giving a great talk, then it's not nerve-wracking at all.
I've been in the back of the room because I am an executive producer for bigger conferences where there's that needed bridge between technical production and the business, and just kind of make sure everything that's supposed to happen on stage happens. And I have noticed where some event hosts have decided to pull back and not do their full pitch. And my gut feel is that they got nervous. So they just decided to do the short mini, okay, well, if you want to know more, I do this coaching thing, like go to the back of the room. And it's such a disservice to their guests, right? Who there's a portion of every audience who wants more and would like it to be with you and would like to continue, of course. But I'm wondering if I'm also seeing someone that's not prepared, someone that hasn't done this a lot of repetition of the entire talk, especially this very important pitch part. And because they haven't done it so many times, it's very easy for them to be like, this feels like it might be a little hard to continue on for the next half hour. So I'm just going to make it easier on myself and do the easy version, which is, you all saw that in your pamphlet. If
nothing.
You want more. Yeah, exactly. To do nothing. Yeah. And then their sales were a reflection of that. So you're saying the answer is rehearse it so much that your body wants to do nothing else other than keep going and do the thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're still going to get those nerves, but because of your preparation, they're going to be greatly reduced, and your audience isn't going to feel that either.
Yeah, back to my obsession with Alex Hormozy currently. I just watched he's got like a 10-minute YouTube on preparing for that book launch event that he just did in August. And one thing that struck me was like, I'll be nothing if not prepared. And I've rehearsed this, like every word like is strategic, and every pause, and the hour and a half that he was on stage, he rehearsed over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So
and it showed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so good.
It showed. Yeah.
It was so good.
It's so seamless. Like I had my credit card out ready to buy.
You're like, I don't know, whatever it is you're selling.
Whatever. I'm ready.
And then he was like, and it's free.
And the credit card went back into my wallet. No, then I bought the book. So it's like, so.
I did. I know. He gave the book out for free. And I'm like, no, I still actually would like to buy it.
Yeah.
I still.
Isn't that incredible? I mean, the value, and this is a great lesson too, like the value and the stories that he shared while doing that whole event led up to people. I'm sure everybody had a price in their mind. It's like, okay, if it is at this certain rate, I will buy whatever he's selling. Mm-hmm. And, when it went down to zero, then they're like, oh, this is crazy. But the whole idea was to sell the book, which now he created this huge amount of reciprocity with the audience. It's like, oh, you're giving all this. Well, of course I'm going to buy your book. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
And not just one.
It's the least I could do.
Yeah. But I'm not going to buy one. I'm going to buy 3 so I can get the stupid hat, too.
Right. It's not a stupid hat. It's the hat Alex wears. Why wouldn't we all want it? So smart.
That's right.
And
yes.
That
brilliant,
building
brilliant.
of the goodwill. But I guess his whole book is all about, well, just do more. And and that's what he did in this preparation. He just did more preparation than others do. And so we need to be willing, if we want that outcome, which is a profitable event, that we need to be willing to do the work. And what you're telling us is the work is rehearsing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, if you go to a Broadway play or West End play or any play, they've rehearsed months and months and months. These actors, that is their job. They don't just roll up on opening night and then the production happens. Doesn't happen.
I was on vacation this summer where there's an outdoor theater, and in the middle of the woods, it's idyllic. And I was my kiddo's friends with a kid of the actors, and so we went to one of the shows, and then we were having like a play date the next day, and they're like, oh, could you watch our kid while we do rehearsal? And I was thinking to myself, I'm like it's just the same show that you just did, and you've been doing it for weeks. And that was what was going through my head. Like, why would you spending like several hours during the day doing the rehearsal, and you did it last night, you're gonna do it again tonight. And it was like an understudy was going to be filling in one of the roles, so they just wanted to do another full rehearsal, even though that understudy had done many, many, many rehearsals, but had maybe been a few days or weeks, and so they're just going to do another one. And it really was kind of mind-blowing. I'm not in that space, but they're doing that much practice.
Yeah.
And I think we just underestimate that the people who are good are just good because that's who they are. It's not the case.
No.
They practice. They worked with a coach like you to fine-tune the stories that they would tell at each moment, and where they would start the story, and like that stuff. I think, it's empowering as an entrepreneur to be like, oh yes, all I have to do is just like do the work and like hire a coach like you. But it's also like painful because like, oh my gosh, another thing that I have to like learn and get better at. But it's possible, and what you're telling us is we just have to like learn and do the work. So if that's the case, and if someone is like, okay, I'm loving what Tom is putting down today, how can they get a hold of you, and what do you help people with?
Yeah, so best way to get a hold of me would be on the website, and actually have a free gift for your listeners
Yay.
as well. So they can go to tomjackobs, JACKOBS.com. So TOMJACKOBS.com /storybook. And that is how to put together their personal story. And when they download that, there'll be a training as well, where it's a live or a video of me going through with a client, rearranging her story to make it more dramatic. So they can download that, get the training as well, and that will get you on my list. So
Awesome.
Then I'll email you. And the other is just going to the website, and I have all my social media channels on there as well, so they can look at me there. But generally, what I help people with, and who I help, are what I consider heart-centered salespeople.
Okay.
So, and what that means to me is people that are in an industry where they're helping people help themselves. So personal development, health and wellness is really the biggest niche that I work in. And these are typically folks that are nurturers by nature and introverted. Many are introverted like myself, and just don't want to sell, because selling is icky, and just it's something that you do to somebody. Well, sales is not a verb. So don't treat it as such. Maybe it is a verb. I don't know. Anyway, it is not something that you do to somebody. It's something to help somebody do something more with their lives. Sales to me is you're a problem solver. Somebody has a problem. You're there to solve it for them if you can. If you can't, you refer them out to somebody else who can. But if you can help them, it's your duty and obligation to enroll them in your program. So that's so typically help people with their presentation, turning that into a performance so that they can get more profits in their business, and that's the 3P method.
So good. I'm just a firm believer in getting good at what you teach people at, because my life was changed by getting in the room and being moved to buy the thing. And I can't underline enough how powerful that was for me, and how grateful I am for life. And if I'd gotten in the room where someone sucked at it, it wouldn't have changed my life. So for the better.
Yep.
And so I just think it's something that we all owe it to ourselves and our communities to get better at. I'm grateful you're there.
That's so well said.
All right.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for joining me. I know it's late for you, because where are we talking to each other from?
I am in Taiwan, which is off the coast of China.
Across the globe from where I'm at in Portland. So thank you so much for joining me so late at night. And I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, and I'm so glad the universe made our paths cross, and I look forward to staying in touch. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Green Room Central podcast. If you loved this episode, then please take a screenshot on your phone and post it to Instagram, and be sure to tag @SarahPfeiffer and let me know why you liked it and what you'd like to hear, or who you'd like to hear from in the future. That'll help me know what to create for you. Also, if scaling events in your business sounds like something you want to tackle this year and you need a coach, let's connect to see if one-on-one coaching is for you. Just go to greenroomcentral.com. You and I can work together one-on-one throughout the course of the year and dive deep into the inner workings of your events and business. You'll receive mentorship, personalized feedback, and customized guidance to define your goals and achieve your next level of success. Just go to greenroomcentral.com right now to apply. I appreciate your commitment to leveling up and learning the mindset and strategy of live events. Keep going. Keep learning. If you want more, head over to greenroomcentral.com for show notes and all the links from today's episode.